There is no easy button in sales. There is no magic bullet or secret sauce. No one sales tool, gimmick, or mystical new process guaranteed to fill your pipeline. The truth is that top producers and sales superstars are fanatical prospectors who take personal responsibility for identifying and creating their own sales opportunities. I say amen and amen to that. So the first one we're going to talk about today is prospecting. And prospecting is the most important activity any salesperson can do, bar none. It is the most important one. Without prospecting, there's no point of anything else. Prospecting leads to meetings, which leads to opportunities, which leads to deals, which leads to closings, which leads to additional referrals, so on and so forth. And so if our business is not where we want, if we're not getting the lead flow that we want, I can generally link it back to the lack of prospecting. Now, there are other things throughout the process, how you structure your meeting, what you do after the meeting, that plays a critical role, and we'll talk about those things, of course, too. But none of that matters unless we are doing prospecting. Prospecting also, and I'm not going to beat around the bush, it's probably the least fun in most cases when it comes to all the activities we have to do, but it's the most important. And it's something that we just have to grit our teeth and get through, whether we feel like it or not. Prospecting is what separates the 95% from the 5% or the 99% from the 1%. You know, we want to be in that top percentage there, and prospecting is the thing that separates everybody else. I mentioned yesterday in our training that prospecting also has auxiliary benefits, how it's going to strengthen you throughout the day. It's like a workout you get done in the morning. It helps strengthen other areas of your business, increases confidence, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to read a little excerpt from a book. It's the book I shared with you guys yesterday. I recommend it to all of our loan officers. I just read it. I think I listened to the audio 2 weeks ago. I bought the book and reading it. Now I asked the other loan officers to do it because he does a phenomenal job in talking about prospecting. Unlike a lot of business books that could have been done in a quarter of the actual amount of words, start to finish, this book is gold. And so I recommend all of you get it. We're going to be talking about during a group coaching call, but I want to share a couple of lines that are in the foreword, so that's not even in the actual book. And the truth, here's the truth. There is no easy button in sales. There is no magic bullet or secret sauce. No one sales tool, gimmick, or mystical new process guaranteed to fill your pipeline. The truth is that top producers and sales superstars are fanatical prospectors who take personal responsibility for identifying and creating their own sales opportunities. I say amen and amen to that. Prospecting is the lifeblood of our business. And so when in doubt, prospect more. When in doubt, prospect more. You're getting busier, we don't stop prospecting. Okay, so with kind of that little introduction, soliloquy, monologue, whatever you want to call it, let's talk about prospecting and what we're trying to do here. And I will share my screen and go over, a quote-unquote script. But as we see as we go through it, the script is not so much the important thing as it is around some of the mindsets when it comes to prospecting. So let's just talk about prospecting and who we are calling. And when I say prospecting, I generally mean we're cold calling realtors. Now, it could be like a lukewarm realtor, meaning that they know who you are, but you've never done any business. But let's just go to the hardest of the hard, and that is cold calling a realtor that doesn't know who you are and is not expecting your phone call. Right? As we're going through our thought process, before we ever pick up the phone to make the call, here's a few things that we want to know. The first thing is that nothing bad can happen. Like, they can't go through the phone and punch you in the face. They can yell at you. Who cares? They don't pay your bills, right? They don't help, who cares? And the second thing is they did you a favor of showing you what kind of person they are when they act that way. Would you really want to work with that person anyway? So when somebody's that way, be thankful for that. We should. Doesn't make it any easier. I get it. Maybe it does a little bit, but just know that. Another thing to know, it is a numbers game. Anybody that tells you that it's not is wrong. It is a numbers game. Now, there's things that we can do to improve our numbers. Like if you play baseball, if you're a 200 hitter, there's things that you could do to try to work your way up to become, 250, 275, 300, and so on and so forth. And so there are things we can do to improve. But at the end of the day, it is a numbers game. A third of the realtors you talk to are going to want to meet. A third of the realtors that you talk to, no matter what you do, they're never going to meet. And a third of the realtors you talk to is that they may meet, they may not meet. It depends on how you handle it. It's a numbers game. The great thing is, when it comes to this numbers game, it works in your favor, and it can and will grow your business quickly, so long as we're calling the right realtors. The right realtors is somebody that closed at least 6 buyer sides in the last 12 months. Statistically, they have enough business to refer you a couple of deals to make it worth your time. Now, if we're prospecting realtors less than that, we could be doing great, but if they don't have the capacity to send us business, it's the wrong realtor. You might like them, but if they don't have the capacity to send you the business, it's the wrong realtor. Another thing to know and embrace is you're not the only person calling them. They're getting calls not just from other loan officers, but from other vendors and such. So they get cold calls all of the time. But let's stick with the line of other loan officers. And so one thing we have to know when it comes to prospecting is when I call a realtor or when you call a realtor, they automatically assume you are just like every other loan officer that calls them. And you might say, well, that's not fair. I'm different. I have this and this. And that's great, but it doesn't matter. We need to embrace that understanding and knowledge that they're going to automatically assume that I'm like everybody else. So what do I need to do? I need to show them that I'm not like everybody else. And so I'm going to embrace that opportunity to do that. So when anybody's in a situation and they go through a default mode, when you get a cold call, you probably all have your default mode of how you handle that call. The realtor's the same thing. When they find out you're a loan officer cold calling, they go into their default mode. And so they're going down this path. Our goal is to knock them off that path. Knock them off a little bit, get them a little bit unbalanced, so then we can have a conversation. Now, that's not going to be for every realtor you talk to, because some of them are just going to be amendable. You're going to hit them at the right time. They're going to say, you know what, John? Normally, I wouldn't even take this call, but you called me at the right time because my go-to lender just lost me 2 deals, just screwed up 2 deals on me, or we missed 2 closing dates on time. The timing is impeccable. Or my person just decided not to renew their license or whatever. When you are consistent in your prospecting, you're going to get those laydowns. Those are great. And the harder you work, the more you do it, the luckier you get, so to speak. And that's the same thing when it comes to prospecting. Those opportunities are going to happen. But, a lot of them is our goal is to knock them off their trajectory of what they're thinking. Totally cool. So we want to embrace the opportunity that they will lump us in with everybody else. Know that going in. It's going to make you more relaxed. So when they push against you on it, you're not so tense, trying to worry about it. Shoulders relaxed because I expected it. So expect that and embrace that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Also, when it comes to prospecting, we have scripts for you to utilize. But what you want to do is you want to make them your own. We're going to go through the principles behind them. But the important thing is when it comes to scripting is that one is you don't need to have it down perfectly to start. My opinion is just start doing it. You will get better as you do it, and you'll start to internalize it. If it sounds like you're reading that first, that's okay. Just take action. You have 2 sets of people. They're in an art class, and the professor tells half of the students, "Hey, I want you to only make 1 pot, vase, or whatever for this semester, but it needs to be the absolute best one that you can possibly make. Just 1." Told half the class. The other half of the class, he says, what I want you to do is I want you to make as many vases or pots, whatever you want to call them, as you can through the semester. And at the end, submit your best one. Which of those 2 groups at the end of the semester is going to have the best vase? It's going to be the ones that try to make as many as possible. They've learned to improve what not to do, what to do, how to do all those things. The same things with us. We need to take more action. And the more we do it, the more efficient, the better we get at it. So just take action. Okay. Now, when it comes to prospecting, and I'm calling somebody, there are three ways or three different things that a person receives and how they take what I'm saying or how they interpret what I'm saying. There is the tonality of what I'm saying, the how of what I'm saying. There's the body language behind what I am saying. Even on a phone call, people feel your body language. Absolutely, they feel your body language. They can feel if you're slumped over. They can feel if you're not really into it. People feel your body language. The third thing is the words that you say, the actual words. Now, which of those three has the most impact on somebody and how they receive what you say? Looking for some interaction here.
I say tonality.
And you're spot on. It's tonality. Tonality has the most impact on somebody, on how they interpret what you say. So when we are doing calls, our number one focus should be on our tonality. You guys may or may not notice as I talk with you guys, my tonality is, there's some energy to it, but I'm not just monotone talking through the whole thing, just sounding at the same volume, the same pitch, the same rate of speed. It goes ups and downs. I'll have pauses. I will emphasize certain words. You'll even see my hand gestures get into things. And that's not because you can see my hands moving. It's just that when my body language influences my tonality. So if I'm doing, hey, we have this or that, it helps you get the right tonality. Now, when it comes to words, words are important, but let me give you this example of how words are not as important as the tonality. If I were to give you the line, I'll see you later. I'll see you later. So it's only 4 words. The way I say that will completely change the meaning behind it. Like if I were to say to James, I'll see you later, I could say it in a menacing way, right? Which is kind of threatening. Or I could say it to Owen in a loving way. I'll see you later. Same words, but the meaning is completely changed by how I say it. So tonality is the most important thing. And you'll find the better your tonality is, the more favorable response you will get from people. Okay? I've shown this to work with people with very strong accents. People say, well, the accent's a turnoff. Well, it can be. It absolutely can be. But if you have the right tonality, you can overcome that. The right tonality, energy will overcome. Now, I'm not even getting to mirroring and matching and all those things. Those things we can talk about at a different time. But the most important thing is that we want to have a strong tonality. For some people, it's not natural. Some people have naturally, they just can turn that volume up and they're ready to go. I mean, that's just who they are. That's not me. I'll tell you right now, that's not me. My natural inclination is chill, quiet, introverted. If I had to lean to one, it's introverted. I have to manually, when I say manually, it's really metaphorically, flip a switch. It is now energy time. I have to do this with so many different things, but I've gotten to the point of where I can now do it very easily. And so none of us can say is that, well, that's just not how I am naturally. Who cares? It doesn't matter what your natural is what we need to do. If we want to grow, we need to flip the switch and do things the most optimal way to get the results we want, the game theory play. And that is to have a strong tonality. You still have your personality, of course, but we need to have the tonality. All right. With that introduction and knowing these things, I want to get into the quote-unquote script. But even when we get into the script, it's still principles that are going to apply. And sharing my screen here. So we have this script. You guys see the screen? Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so remember the first 3 things. Tonality, how you say it, is the most important thing. Body language influences tonality. It's one of the reasons why I recommend when you're doing cold calls, really a lot of different types of calls, is to stand up. It's easier to have a stronger body language when you're standing than when you're sitting, because when you're sitting, it's very easy to hunch over. Now, typically, I like to even do these calls standing up, but I'm at my desk that doesn't have my standing desk, so I got to sit down. So if I was standing up, I'd even have more energy or whatnot. So I recommend standing up. It helps a ton. And then words are just guides. You can adjust them, try different things, but you do want to follow within a framework some different principles. All right, so one of our key principles is an acronym we call RVA, Rapport, Value, Ask. And I really want that ingrained in you because that's going to come up often through our different trainings. But I want it to be so saturated in your line of thinking that it influences every way, every mode that you communicate with somebody. So not just only a phone call, but also your emails, your text messages, your private messages, your voicemails. If you can structure it in a way of RVA, rapport, value, ask, you're going to get better results. It's the way it works. People will appreciate you more. They won't even realize why it is, but they will. And it's because everybody else, they don't do RVA, rapport, value, ask. They just do ask. And a lot of times before there's ask, there's some vinegar behind it. So not only do we want to do RVA, we always want to be honey. So honey or vinegar, you catch more bees with honey, as they say. We don't want to be vinegar. Okay, so when it comes to rapport, value, ask on a cold call, it's a very, very condensed version of it. And so rapport is we don't have much time for reports. I can't just on a cold call is call up and Ralph doesn't know who I am and try to shoot the breeze and have a long conversation. Now, you might get it with some people, but generally speaking, it's not going to happen. So how do we get rapport in a cold call? Well, it's a very small thing, but it has a big impact, and it's different. It's even different than what he talks about in his book here, and so I'd have to politely disagree with him on some of this. Of course, he's not only talking about with realtors, not talking about realtors, but any which way. So the rapport part comes from our initial opening. And we're going to spend the most time of the actual script on the smallest part of the actual call, which is the opening. It's that important because the opening gets us to the middle part, which gets us to what we ultimately want is the ask. And what are we asking for? The purpose of a cold call is only this: to get the meeting. That is the goal. That is the end. My goal is to get the meeting. That is the only goal I have to get the meeting. It's not to pitch them on the call. You're going to do everything you can to avoid that. Oh, just tell me what you got and try to sell me right now. No, we can't do that. You'll never win that. You'll never. You need to get them on a call. You need to get them on a meeting. So our only goal is the meeting, which comes from the ask. And we don't get to the ask until we have the value, and we don't get to the value section unless we first have our first part of rapport, which is the beginning. And so here's how this works. Something along the lines. It doesn't have to be exactly this way. Hey, is this James? I don't use the full names. I use first names. Now, I'm not going to go, hey, is this Jim? Because I don't know if James goes by Jim. I'm not going to assume, but if I know that he does, I would do that, right? Hey, is this James? Yes. Hey, James, this is DJ, or DJ Christopherson with Fast Mortgage Closings. How are you doing today? This is where a lot of people differ. They don't say, you don't want to ask this because, well, you just interrupted their day and it might not be a good day and you annoyed them. Well, that's what everybody else does, right? Is they want to either skip that or don't want to actually mean when they ask this. We are going to leverage this to build rapport. I'll create a little bit of rapport. Because when most people ask, how are you doing today? Do they actually mean that? Do they actually care? Or are they just doing it as a mere formality? They do it as a formality, right?
Yeah.
Here's where we differ. We care. I want to know how you're doing. And however you are doing, whatever you say, I'm going to respond. I'm going to mirror your response. So how are you doing today? I'm doing great. The key word here is how are they doing? Is doing great. So what I want to do is slow down and pay attention and then repeat back to them what they said in a way. Hey, that's awesome to hear you're doing great. Or if they say, I'm doing good. Hey, that's great to hear you're doing good. Doing well. Hey, it's awesome to hear that you're doing well. So we have to use the exact word. Because if they say that I'm doing good, hey, I'm glad to hear you're doing great, you've just completely did the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. Now, what if they say something that is not positive? Most people do, but if they don't, how do you go? What do you do with that? Well, we don't ignore it. We go with it. It's one of the things that differentiates us. How you doing today? I'm doing all right. You hear it in their voice. Oh, just all right. What's up? I'm going to ask them, or I'm not doing so great. I'm sorry to hear what's going on. You're not doing so great. Why would I do this? It's because I do want to know. Like it could be as well. I just had 3 deals that blew up in my face yesterday. Hey, that's good for me to know. Or it might be as I just got news. I got to put my dog down or whatever. Now, do I really want to try to persuade somebody to have a meeting with me when they're in that state? Of course not. Right? That's not the right thing to do with people. I can simply say, I'm really sorry to hear that, Ralph. I know how close pets can be, how important they are. Would it be better, if I were to just give you a call and tomorrow? And they might say, yeah, I really appreciate that. You win. Or they might say, no, I'm all right. I appreciate that. What can I help you with? You win again. You can't go wrong. Now, what if you get this? Because you're going to get this, and this is my favorite one to get. Is, hey, this DJ Christofferson with Fast Mortgage, and as soon as I say the word mortgage, I can see them in my mind going, because they know what's next. I see it, I can feel it. You might hear it in their breath coming out of their mouth, and then when that happens, I relish that. DJ with Fast Mortgage Closings, how are you doing today? Fine. Now I know what's going on here. I'm going to address it. Most people, they just ignore it and try to just move past it. I'm going to say, hey, it sounds like you don't want to hear from me today. Say it in a fun little way. Yeah. You get a lot of calls from loan officers. Yeah. And they all trying to, get your business and promise you they're the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. And they all pretty much sound the same, don't they? Yeah, they do. Well, I got good news for you, James. I'm not like every other loan officer. And what I do want to talk with you and set up a meeting and go over and what that entails and how I am different from other people. So how does tomorrow and whatnot? And then me and I would just go into it then. They open the door for it. They open the door for me to show them that I'm different by telling them that I'm different. And that's automatically you're going to say, okay, I guess this guy is different. Because how many other loan officers, when they hear that, are approaching the situation that way? 0 of them. 0 of them. They all are just like, I saw your name, but I'd like to meet with you. They all sound the same. But we don't have to. We could be different. So that's our rapport part. Very simple, but very important. The value part, also very small. And the only value we can really provide right now is just a little bit of flattery. Very simple script. Hey, so-and-so, I respond to it. The reason I'm calling today, I saw your name a couple places. I see that you're closing business. And in this market, there's not a lot of agents closing the business that you are. I wanted to see if I could meet with you 15, 20 minutes on Zoom. How does tomorrow at 1 or 3 work? And then you're picking the times based on your schedule that you have set up. So the value is a little bit of flattery, and then I go immediately towards the ask. You will get 2 to 3 out of 10 talk-tos that are going to say, yeah, let's do it. You're going to have 2 to 3 no matter what. Whatever you do, there's nothing you can do. And then you have another 2 to 3 that you can get them to meet with you by overcoming objections. So we have our rapport, we have our value, we have our ask. Now, when we ask and we get an objection, the objections can be several different things. I recommend you keep track of the objections you get, but they largely, most of them, statistically speaking, are going to fall into these next few. And these are the ones that you want to learn to meet. Now, agrees to meet, we'll skip that, but you do have a calendar that you will be able to schedule yourself. Schedule the realtor in there, they'll get reminders and all that stuff, but we're not getting into that today. But one of the most common ones you're going to get is, I already have a lender, or I have a loan officer. Hey, James, that's awesome. I figured you already did. I know you close good business. I just want to talk. If anything comes of it, great. If not, at least we get to know each other. So how about a 15, 20 minutes tomorrow at such and such time work? Simple. I'm too busy. I like to approach this one of several different ways. I figured you're busy, you're closing business. I'm busy too, and I like to work with busy people. So how about we meet 15, 20 minutes and we talk about that. We'll keep it short. We'll keep it succinct because we're both busy. It's a great way to do that. Acknowledge they're busy. I'm busy too. Or if you say, no, I really can't. Well, then you do this. Let's schedule this in 2 weeks from now, and I'll follow up the day before, make sure that time still works for you. Here's one that you'll get. I'm not interested. This is not an objection. This is kind of a blow-off. And because this tells you nothing. Because they don't even know what you have to offer. So I want to find out what it is. I'm not interested. Can I ask, why you're not interested. Give it a reason. Oh, I have loan officers calling me all the time. Great. I'm not like them. I have loan officers a loan officer I work with. Great. I just wanted to see if we could chat, talk some shop. If anything comes in, great. If not, no big deal. What's this about? I'm not going to sell them on me. The reason why we don't sell on a prospecting call, or several reasons, but one of them is because that's not selling. That's puking on people. Real true selling is not just puking on people information. It's asking them questions to draw out information to see what problems you have that you can solve. And you can't do that on a prospecting call. So if they want you to just spill everything about you right now, you're doing them a disservice. Now, we're going to talk more about in our next training that we're going to do today in the realtor meeting, because that's the key to having a great realtor meeting. Send me an email. No. It's for the same reason, is because an email is way too broad. Now, if they really mean it, I would tell you most 99.9% when they say send me an email, they're never going to look at the email. That's just to get you off the phone. But if I am going to decide I'm going to send an email, I'm going to ask them, well, what are the most important things for you? Great, I do that. But here, let's also do this, is let's schedule a follow-up call right now to review what was on that email. If they're not willing to do that, I'm not sending them an email. Why waste my time on something that a statistical probability is never going to go anywhere? It's just not how it works. So we want to do things with the best game theory play. Bad experience, I'm not going to go through all of these. So when it comes to prospecting, we have to know it is a word game. It is a numbers game first. And they're just things that we can do to improve our odds. Know that, hey, other people are calling them, and embrace that. Embrace that because it's an opportunity to show that you are different. And prospecting is the most important thing you can do for your business. You want to build your business, prospect. Prospect every single day. Now, as your business grows, we have two big activities, if you guys remember, is prospecting and refining. As your business grows, starting off, prospecting, you're going to spend more time prospecting. But as it starts to grow and you have more realtors you can work, referral relationships, you're going to spend more time on refining and then less time on prospecting. But you never, ever stop prospecting. Prospecting is the most liberating and freeing thing, is because you never will be in a spot of need. And why is that important? Why do a lot of loan officers can't stand realtors? Is because they are forced to take any business from any realtor that's willing to give them a deal. That's a crappy place to be, where you are in a place of desperation. But when I know that I have realtors that I'm meeting and prospecting all the time, and if a realtor falls out because they're a knob and they want me to do something shady, or they screwed up and they want to blame me and take it out on me, no sweat off my back. I'm replacing you because I prospect every single day. It is very freeing and liberating to have that. And then that also impacts the way your interactions with them, your strength, because they will try to run you over. But when they can't run you over, one of two things happen. Is when they split, totally cool, because I can replace them, or two, they get in line. I say that in a way that sounds mean, but I don't mean it in a mean way, but they get in line, right? We far too often take the brunt and blame of things we shouldn't. It just is what it is. But it's easier to deal with that when we know that we always have a fresh pipeline of realtors to replace other realtors if something were to happen. All right, before we go into the realtor meeting training, what questions you guys have for prospecting?